Welcome, everyone. I'm Erica Grau, Director of Marketing here at Rhinogram. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I would like to thank all of you for joining us. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host for today, Luke Infinger with Hip Creative. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Erica. I'm looking forward to speaking with you all today. My name's Luke Infinger, co-founder and director of Hip Creative. Today, Rhinogram, Dynaflex, and Hip Creative will be presenting on growing your practice in 2020 with virtual care and digital marketing. The first part of the webinar will be presented by orthodontist Dr. Keith Dressler, who will speak on growing your practice through virtual care. The second part of the webinar will be presented by orthodontist Dr. Ben Fishbein, who will take you through tips and tricks on building your brand through digital marketing in 2020.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We will send out the recording of this live presentation out via email. And as always, Luke, I think, has some goodies that he'll be sure to add into that email follow-up too. So some awesome marketing resources too for you guys. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please do ask them in the GoToWebinar control panel. We've saved time at the end to answer any questions, and we'll be sure to follow up via email and phone call with any questions we don't get to. I'd love to start off by welcoming our first presenter, Dr. Keith Dressler. Dr. Dressler has more than 35 years of experience in private orthodontic practice and currently serves on the advisory board of the American Teledentistry Association. He is also an avid entrepreneur. In 2000, Dr. Dressler co-founded OrthoBank, and in 1998, he co-founded Elite Physician Services, a national healthcare patient finance company. As CEO and chairman, Dr. Dressler grew the business before it became the City Health Card in 2003. So, Dr. Dressler, let's jump right in. Give us a quick background on your practice and how many staff members you have.
My practice has I've been practicing for 35 and a half years. We're small compared to Dr. Fishbein's practice, but we have about 10 employees, 4 or 5 assistants, 3, 4 up front, and a lab person.
Nice. So even though your practice is, smaller than Fishbein's, I think you do a great job of getting new patients in the door every month. So what can practices do to gain new patients, and what should be their first step?
Well, the first step is obviously having awesome marketing, because if marketing isn't there and you don't have a very, very good online presence these days, it's just really, really tough. The traditional days of having a lot of dentists in your community refer you patients just isn't what it used to be. Lots of family dentists are doing orthodontics themselves. So really, in today's world, digital advertising and marketing is critical to you succeeding online.
So how do you convert patients from, your digital marketing into patients coming into your office?
Well, the beautiful thing is, obviously, we have Rhinogram. Rhinogram is a virtual care platform that enables us to meet patients where they live. And what that means is this: it means a lot of things. It means however the patient wants to communicate with us, we allow it. We're not just an office that says you can only call us and we can only call you, the traditional voice type of communication. We're more modern. We allow patients to text with our practice. We allow patients to be on my website and click really a link that's on there and begin messaging with my practice, directly with my practice, which is a feature that Rhinogram allows. We're also, my business Facebook Messenger is integrated with Rhinogram as well. So all messages from all forms of communication are coming in through Rhinogram, with the exception of the phone call. And the phone call is coming in on my normal phone system, which is not affected at all by Rhinogram. You don't have to have a new phone system. You just simply add Rhinogram to what you have, and it's simple and easy. And if people choose to call, if that's their preferred method, then your phone rings. If they choose to text, social media message, or get a hold of you from the website, then it's all coming in and the phone's not ringing. So in my mind, we're sort of in a hybrid state. My practice actually is 60% what I would call virtual connecting and 40% traditional. So my phone rings a little bit, but not near like it used to. And we're much more efficient and effective because we have allowed patients to communicate through their entire continuum of care the way they want to. And that's from acquiring them in the very beginning. So those patients that prefer online acquisition, you've got access to them. Those that are traditional, you have access to them. If you're only traditional, you're missing out on a whole big market out there.
I bet your staff absolutely loves having all of that patient information before the patient even walks in the door. So tell me, what is the workflow like for your team once a patient comes for an in-office visit?
Yeah, what we do before they come in is obviously we try to have them send the front and back of their insurance card. We try to have them send photos of their teeth to us so that we can do a cursory type of exam, with the goal being to give them what treatment time, approximate treatment time would be, type of treatment that they want, and approximate cost with a payment plan. And I use the word approximate. I give them an exact cost with a payment plan, but very, very, very rarely am I off. When they actually come in, you look at x-rays, they may not have taken pictures quite accurately enough for me to understand, let's say a dual bite, for instance, and everyone out there knows what that is, where they bite one way in the picture and they bite another way when you actually do the real exam. So some things are maybe trickier, but patients certainly understand when there's an error like that, that the picture wasn't exactly what it was. And so when you have to change what you thought you might have to do, let's say from maybe, I don't even give them this information, whether we're extracting teeth or not extracting teeth, but if you're comfortable giving that, you might have said, no, we're not going to extract teeth. And then after seeing the thing, you may have changed your mind, or looking at x-rays and cephalometric measurements, you may change your mind. But at the end of the day, patients are very, very understanding. We also text the link to health history, HIPAA authorization, COVID authorizations. All of that is collected before the patient even walks in, including but not limited to the down payment if possible. The down payment part, if they've agreed to what I call a planned same day start, and they've agreed to pay arrangements, we always ask, would it be okay to collect the down payment now? And 50% of the time, the patients say yes. And so you're getting your down payment before you've ever had them step one foot in your practice, which is quite amazing. And the other 50%, when they come in, they pay you then, they know what it is, that sort of thing. And any additional paperwork on the true first visit, they sign at that time.
So let's talk about, we've talked a lot about patient acquisition and how you're handling patients in the office, but let's talk about what happens, after the patient leaves your office. So how are you handling those somewhat, if you will, emergency requests from patients that I'm sure you
Well, what I think is critical to being able to add in what I would call, once they're a patient of yours, and let's first talk about braces patients, and then I'll talk about aligner patients. But braces patients, we train them and share with them what to do in case of emergency. And we always say to them, please selfie a picture to us the second you know that anything's wrong. And the reason for that, and as every orthodontist out there listening to this would know, um, the, some of the biggest frustrations you go through as an orthodontist and timing of treatment being extended is patients walking in and 6 or 7 brackets are off, and you're basically rebanding or rebonding this whole case again. And treatment has, and you hadn't seen the patient in 6 to 8 weeks. And so nothing has progressed, and it's frustrating to put everything back together and not have progressed during those 6 to 8 weeks. Well, you can basically in real time, if you train properly at the banding appointment, at that very first visit appointment, what to do in case of emergency. And we spend time explaining to both patient and parent what to do in case of emergency. It goes right along with here's how to brush your teeth and what not to eat and what to eat and all that. It's all covered there. We also, to basically reiterate again, we give them a card that basically says, save yourself a visit. And on the card is, here's what you do in case of emergency, all these other different things that they can do. And we make sure that our assistants go over with the parent and the child this card. Here is all of the things included. And on the top of that list is, please let your other family members know that we can see them virtually for their first visit. They do not have to come in office, and please feel free to give them our number to text so that we're using our existing patients as a sales force for our practice. So with braces people, we start there. Now, also with braces people, the second frustrating thing for an orthodontist is 6 to 8 weeks later, the patient comes in and you're in bigger wires, you're maybe root torquing some teeth, you're waiting for the root torque to occur, and you see that it hasn't occurred and it maybe needs another 8 to 10 weeks, and you give them a that a boy, a that a girl in 8 to 10 weeks for another 8 to 10 weeks. So when I get to rectangular wires or root torquing wires, I go to 16-week intervals and do a virtual check in 8 weeks. So therefore, I'm not wasting chair time with that a boy, that a girl. Obviously, it's saving a lot of money in terms of not having to garb up with PPE and spending money for what an in-office visit would truly cost you if somebody walked through your door. And at best guess today, it's somewhere between $120 and $150 per visit. That is a hard cost to you for having a patient walk through your door for a visit. So the fewer visits that you can create within your practice, the less or the less expenses that you actually have, the more profitable you become, and you have not sacrificed quality of care of treatment, which is critical to this formula. There are doctors as well who want to use, and this is fine, when I do an 8-week, if I go 16 weeks with a braces patient and I'm doing an 8-week check-in, we basically text them and give them some sample pictures that we would like for them to send to us for that check-in. Other offices may use the likes of a dental monitoring or whatnot, whatever best fits your particular practice needs and what's good for you and how you feel you can deliver. That's what I would recommend doing. By no means is photos the only way to do this. You do it with what you think is best. Likewise, when we look at aligners, I basically, my regimen is like this. We give them the first 2 aligners. We text them 3 weeks for the first one to send me pictures with them in and out. We text them again, and if everything's okay, we move them to the aligner 2. We then have them again in 3 weeks text. And if everything's gone well in those 2 checks, we FedEx them 4 aligners and go 2-week intervals. Every 2 weeks, we're texting them pictures, they're texting back. And then if everything works well, out of those 4 aligners, we go to 8 aligners at a time. So that's my particular regimen. Again, you're not required to live by what I do for sure, but those who wish to use dental monitoring for those aligner checks, again, that's just another way of doing it. But it's keeping the patient out of my practice. My aligner cases, they're really only in office 3 visits. They're in office for the initial scan. They're in office to receive the initial aligners where we can add attachments and slenderize. And then at the very end, they're in my office so I can put a permanent fixed lingual wire behind their teeth and scan them for the permanent, the aligner that would fit over that fixed retainer as their retainer. So again, with them, it's just 3 visits. What this has done for me, it's opened up all kinds of chair time. Obviously with COVID, and I hope COVID goes away soon, but it's also enabled my staff and I to be what I would call COVID compliant, where we're having patients come in from the parking lot and keeping them social distanced, et cetera. And it's been wonderful for that as well, to where we've minimized cross-contamination and COVID spread and that sort of thing.
All right, Dr. Dressler, it sounds like you really have an amazing process when it comes to, seeing more than 60% of your patients virtually. So tell me, how does that work with billing? Like, how are you handling, those kind of routine administrative, inquiries like appointments and billing? How do you handle those without someone in
Um,
the office?
yeah, most of our contracts are actually set up, my office uses OrthoBank. Those that are on OrthoFi, I'm sure use OrthoFi. And that's the contract balance. However, as we all know, um, there are other costs that come in where people lose retainers, lose aligners. We have to remake them. We've got office visit charges for various things, repairing retainers, repairing lingual wires, and there's fees associated with that. Most of the time, again, they know to bring or give their child whatever it is. However, there are plenty of times where a child comes in and says, "Hey, I've lost my retainer. I forgot the money. I forgot a credit card." And we're able very simply to send a Rhinogram, what is called RhinoPay link, which is text to pay directly to the parent who's working, who cannot receive a phone call, but absolutely can receive a text. They go ahead and pay so we can go ahead and repair and fix. It's just so convenient. And a lot of people love text to pay. As mentioned earlier, we use that text to pay feature to collect the down payment. So that's another way that we can just send a simple link. Here's text to pay. We set up the recurring payments through OrthoBank. And like I said, those who use OrthoFi or whatever system you're using to collect recurring payments, that's how that's done. Then all of these other administrative things like retainer checks, retainer adjustments, we do sleep apnea appliances, things along that line, we're going to use RhinoPay for, because they're basically one-time charges. And we want to collect all the one-time charges as conveniently as possible and as quickly as possible, rather than them having to come in and we swipe something. We can also do that while they're sitting in the car in our parking lot. we can collect it either before or after an appointment. So again, it's just really, really convenient. And when you can keep people from having to stop at the front desk to pay or whatnot, again, you're minimizing spread of virus if you happen to be in COVID times. And it's real convenient for people to do virtually.
Yeah. So you just mentioned about kind of turning your, waiting room into the parking lot, or turning your parking lot into the waiting room, I should say. When did you set that up this year, and how do you use Rhinogram to create a virtual waiting room?
Yeah. So what we do, it started really when COVID first came out. We felt like as it was first beginning, we were still able to stay open at that time before they shut us down. But we felt to do our part, we would create a process in which we would not put people side by side in the waiting room. So we would text our patients and say, hey, please text us when you get in our parking lot. Let us know you're here, and we'll text you instructions on when to come in, etc. And so that's what we did. And what we did also is we opened up all the doors in our office. So when a patient would walk in, they wouldn't have to touch anything. They actually walk right back to either the room or the chair that's available for them. And they walked right back out, no stopping at the front desk, no anything. And we would schedule appointments and next appointments from their car, or while they're sitting in the chair, we would text to their phone if they were an adult and would schedule right there so they could put it in their phone when the next visit would be. So it really worked out well. We kept people from coming together, spreading. Obviously there was absolutely nothing in our waiting room when we did this, and patients really loved it as well. Felt like we were doing our part in preventing the spread and scare to everyone else. So it was very nice.
Nice. So speaking of hot topics, we've talked a lot today about texting with patients and sending photos, and through virtual consults. So what about video consults? How many are you doing a month? And tell us a little bit about Rhino Video, and is there anything for the patient to learn or your staff to learn to use this video consult service?
Well, Rhino Video is the most simple thing in the whole wide world, and it's really super cool. And we created it, as people would know, so that the patient end does not have to have any technologically savvy ability. They simply get, the patient side simply gets a link. They click the link. It asks to allow audio. They click allow audio, and then it'll ask to allow video. They allow video. The cool thing about this is there's nothing for the patient to download. There's nothing for the patient to log into. They simply click a link that's texted to their phone, and it's secure, whatnot. And I hate to say, but about 33% of video visits, if you were using other companies and whatnot, maybe even Rhinogram as well, maybe it's the patient side, I don't really know, but would freeze. Well, if somebody freezes in the midst of this, you've got an administrative burden that's created on how do we contact the patient? What does the doctor do? What does the patient do? What does the TC do? Meaning if it happens to be a TC is the first one. And the cool thing about Rhinogram is you simply can text the patient, please click the link again. And if it freezes again, we'll just make this more of an asynchronous call than a synchronous call, meaning we'll just do this consult through text rather than video there. So this is what I would call the video meet and greet. And there are certain patients who really, really like this. There are others who don't care about it. So we use it only sort of when needed. We usually ask, would you like a video meet and greet? And they'll either say yes or no. And if they say, yes, we'll create one. I know I have gotten numerous meet and greets, and it's paid off dividends tremendously from people who are looking at, the third, the do-it-yourselfers out there, the companies that basically ship a box to the patient of things to do, direct to consumer. But they absolutely love knowing that they can be seen for very few in-office visits, but they have a doctor they can access very easily, very nicely, and very quickly. And it's the same doctor. It's not going to change who they're going to be, who's treating them, who they have access to, and they're willing to pay a little bit more for it than what is being charged for the just do it yourself type of program. So again, very incredibly easy. It's not necessarily used in all of my cases. You asked me that. I don't really know what the percentage is. I think in my practice, if I was to guess, it might be between 25 and 35% of my virtual visits include a video meet and greet. 65% are happy just sending me pictures, us telling them how much it is, them agreeing to it, setting up pay arrangements, setting up, doing all the other, and they never, we never have to do that. Obviously, too, it's a very nice feature for those that don't want to go much further to ask them, how would you like a video meet and greet? Because lots might, and then again, it's a way to sell your practice and them see you in person, you or your TC in person with the video meet and greet. So it's a very, very simple process. From the doctor side, it's simply a click on a little video icon and it sends the patient the link. So it's as cool and slick and as easy as it can be, no real difficulty. And like I said, if there becomes problems, technology problems of frozen screens or whatnot, you simply text with them and it's handled right then and there. And you don't have to worry about patients not worrying what to do. You're not worrying what to do. You handle that problem in literally less than a minute and it's over versus maybe 15 minutes of call this, that, try again. Maybe patients don't know how to download, how to get on Zoom, how to do all these other things.
2020 has brought on many new challenges for healthcare providers. Practices are looking and searching for the right virtual care platform to communicate with their patients and their teams. So Dr. Dressler, what would be on your shopping list when looking for a new solution?
Well, the big things, Erica, I can tell you that differentiate Rhinogram from anything else out there is, again, Rhinogram allows your practice to meet patients where they live, which ultimately means no portal for the patient to log into, no app for the patient to download. And what that ultimately translates is to 80+% adoption by your patient base, which is what you're looking for. If you're only getting 20, 30, 40% adoption of a virtual care solution, then you're missing sort of the boat. And the offices that cater to or that are in the areas of rural communities and lower socioeconomic communities, the beautiful thing is there's no internet access needed. There's no broadband, no internet. As long as they have one bar of cell service, you can actually communicate with them. We're seeing a quadruple rate of engagement with patients that are in those communities, because if a practice tries to voice call these types of patients, what ends up happening is they never answer the call. Yet if you text them, they will text back immediately. So you can get real great engagement with the lower socioeconomic Medicare, Medicaid population and the rural population through our system. And then ultimately, and equally as cool, is that we have a language translation service built in to our platform. And what that means from a patient and practice side of things, the patient, let's say, is Spanish. So they type to our practice and message us in Spanish. It translates to English for us. So we see it in English. My practice sees it in English. We type back in English and it comes to their phone in Spanish. There's nothing cooler than that in the whole wide world. So, and we actually, in my practice, use it to communicate with the patient when they actually are in office and trying to communicate with us. We simply text them the questions in English and it converts to Spanish to them, and they understand what we're asking and they text back in Spanish and it converts to English for us. So again, we don't have to hire or have somebody who actually speaks fluent Spanish or any of the other languages that are integrated to the Rhinogram platform. Also, equally as cool is Rhinogram engages the patient throughout the entire patient journey or the entire care continuum, from acquiring the patient all the way through the care of the patient until you stop seeing the patient. They're engaging the Rhinogram platform the entire time. And a couple of other, last but not least, I've got two. One, Rhinogram has strong integration capabilities. We integrate bidirectionally with those platforms that allow us to. And I know there are a bunch out there that we're doing it with. And to name a few, we've got Cloud9, we've got TOPS, we've got Focus, and I know the next one come live real soon is going to be Dolphin. So we would be seamless with these platforms. That's read and write, not just pulling in data into ours, but writing back to theirs, and for those that allow us to do so. All of that is again really cool, makes it really easy for practices to use the Rhinogram virtual care platform. And last but not least, and probably what goes missed a lot, but is probably as important as anything else, is we have an enterprise level security configuration and scale. And what that means is we do have SSO, which means single sign-on. So if you're with one of these platforms that we have seamless integration with, you can log into that platform and it automatically logs you into Rhinogram. There's not two logins or two separate logins. We also have multi-factor authentication throughout our platform and every other level of security that is needed to sort of meet the enterprise grade security requirements that we're required to meet when you integrate with enterprise accounts. So at any rate, you can feel comfortable that you're very, very protected with our platform.
All right, the last question I have for you is, what were your initial practice goals for 2020, and how did you still manage to reach those goals once COVID-19 hit?
Well, that's a $1 million question. Our practice goals were to grow our practice 10% over the previous year. It was a conservative goal, but we want to try to exceed that goal actually, but you put something that's realistic in front of people. And I think what's going to ultimately happen is obviously we were off for 2 full months. And we have been able to get close to where we were in 19 right now in October is where we are. And I feel like we are going to, by the end of December, for sure be even with 19 and maybe actually hit the 10% increase that we had originally planned. We're trending that way. Again, because you never know what's going to happen, our trends are actually to hit the goal. If we continue to add new patients like we're adding them in sort of record numbers for these months, because we're actually catching up for the months we didn't. But at the same time, we're moving beyond the catch-up phase and into the increase phase. So real exciting that we've been able to do that. And I would attribute it to the fact that, again, we were doing lots of this pre-COVID, but COVID forced even more on us to do more virtually. So it was easier to basically transition to a hybrid workflow of some virtual care and some traditional care, in-office care. And it's really made and sort of shined the light real bright on virtual care, because if this happens again and we're forced to close, I think lots more of us are going to know how to handle it. I fortunately had a jump on it, and it's somewhat of an unfair question to ask me that, because I was sort of doing a hybrid approach from the beginning anyway. And it was pretty easy for me to convert all virtual for those 8 weeks, and we weren't tremendously affected by it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Dressler. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Luke, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Thank you, Erica and Dr. Dressler. I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Ben Fishbein. And Dr. Fishbein is originally from Maryland, where he completed dental school training. Shortly after, he moved to Jacksonville, Florida to complete his orthodontic residency and fellowship training. And soon after his residency, he earned his board certification in orthodontics and dentofacial orthopedics by the American Board of Orthodontics. Dr. Fishbein and Fishbein Orthodontics, we've been partners for about 6 years now. So I'm super excited for you to be with us today and talk about how to grow your practice with social media and digital marketing. Dr. Fishbein.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Looking forward to having this discussion with all these bright minds on here. So.
Yeah. Let's get started. Dr. Fishbein, give us a little bit of background into your practice from when you started in Pensacola, and then where is the practice today?
Sure. So I took over a small practice about 7 years ago. There was six or seven team members. We had 2 locations. Very, very traditional practice, all about 30 to 35 patients per day. And then, implemented some new systems. And like Luke mentioned, we worked with HIP for the majority of that time, who really helped us out a lot, certainly in terms of marketing and systems as well. Now we're at 8 locations and have, I think, around 98 team members at last count.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks for that intro. Tell us a little bit about how you built your brand and what are some of the key takeaways that you learned during that entire process, from starting very traditionally to now being, one of the leaders in the industry. Just some key takeaways on building the brand and how you got started and some of the kind of benchmarks along the way.
Sure. So, our brand, I think, was built. One of the main things is our community involvement. And, we may not be the orthodontist that everybody chooses, but I can tell you the high majority of this community knows about Fishbein Orthodontics, and that's directly through our community involvement. All of our marketing is not done with a specific ROI in mind. Sometimes it's just, letting people know who we are and what we do for this community.
Yeah. And Fishbein Orthodontics is everywhere in the Gulf Coast area, on baseball tickets, country radio stations, schools, community events. You guys do so much, and you've really become the household name and it didn't happen overnight. So walk us through a little bit of that process and the ground game internally and what that looked like.
Sure. So we just, we went in without being scared. We have this saying, you throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. So we tried a lot of different things, a lot of things that didn't work as well. At one point, we had an ice cream truck that I was very happy to donate once it failed a number of times. But our mission has sort of been, not only do what's best for our patients and for our team, but what's best for our community. If there's a way we can help out, we do. Just as an example, we're building 2 houses for Habitat for Humanity next month. We support the local minor league baseball team here. We a portion of every every patient that starts treatment, a portion of their payment goes to the Pensacola Humane Society. So we support that. We held a carnival to raise funds for childhood cancer awareness. We raised about $15,000. So many different events and things we're doing for our community. And it certainly helps in raising our brand awareness.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, we work with about 70 orthodontics across the country. So we see certainly large practices like yourself, although, we started with you 6 years ago when it was totally different, but we see the different types of practices and everybody's in a different place within their journey. But something that you, as well as many other orthodontists, have done really well is you've built a very firm foundation with your brand. And that's not always done online. When we talk about branding, we think maybe social media, website, logo, but the branding is really how your entire brand and name is perceived. And when you nail that, then everything else is so much easier. Once you start running direct response ads and Google ads and different types of things, converting people on your website, it's so much easier once you've taken the time, the money, and made the investment to build that firm foundation within the community. So that's one important part that I just wanted to hit on before we kind of got into the digital side. And then in terms of social media, when marketing your practice, how do you guys specifically utilize social media platforms?
We let you handle that for us. So the answer is HIP. But our favorite thing is when somebody comes in for an appointment and our question to them is, how did you hear about us? And their answer is, how could we not hear about you guys? You guys are everywhere. So
Yeah.
of course it doesn't let us know where it's exactly coming from. Maybe it was a Facebook ad or something, but it's always nice when they're getting exposure to us from multiple sources.
Yeah, definitely. And we just see that pay off so much more in terms of social media, digital marketing, when people don't just cherry pick and say, well, I want to do this thing because it should be easy and everybody's on Facebook. But when they really buy into the long game, and you did, right? You saw the long game, not just today, then everything else at a certain point gets easier with social media. And some of the things that we can talk about, you said you kind of let us handle it, but some of the things that we look at is top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. And we have different types of ads as well as organic content to really complete this funnel on social media. The really neat thing about running ads on Facebook is it gives you top of the funnel, middle, and bottom. And some of this I shared in Las Vegas actually at a Dynaflex event. And what that looks like is when you're running awareness ads on Facebook. In this case, we were promoting your practice, showing two different practices here, but the one on the left promoting a new location back when you were opening in Niceville. This is a reach ad. Top of the funnel, we're making people aware that you're in that location. Middle of the funnel is getting video views or a giveaway. So in this case, we were running a video view campaign for you here on the left. And then bottom of the funnel is where we're actually converting. right? We're showing someone an ad where they can get the offer and convert right on Facebook. So I just wanted to quickly go over that and how we're utilizing social media for your practice today. So we heard Dr. Dressler talk a lot about engaging with patients virtually. And also this is a strategy for your practice, especially using platforms like Facebook. What are your thoughts on engaging prospective patients on Facebook, and how has that helped your practice? You know, even in the beginning, obviously you have Eliza internally. You know, how has social media specifically helped your practice?
Sure. So it's just, I mean, it's just a huge lead generator. And then, you know, by engaging them, we're addressing that lead very quickly. And, you know, not only are we addressing them quickly, we're getting them in the office quickly. So we, you know, we have a rule that any new patient that calls is we're making an effort to get them in within 72 hours. And then we have another rule: any lead we get, our team knows we have to get back to that lead within 5 minutes. So I think, you know, a combination of you know, what the term that we like to say is speed to lead, and then, you know, of course with the Facebook and the other, you know, social media applications, just, you know, so much lead generation, which is, you know, coming from you guys, Luke. So, and I just get the notifications on my phone.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in terms of virtual appointments, talk a little bit about your mindset pre-COVID, and then how you guys were able to utilize virtual appointments for new patients as well as existing during COVID.
Sure. So I mean, I hate to admit I was very closed-minded pre-COVID about virtual exams. I thought, hey, you know, you got to get them in the office anyway. What's the point? And Luke, I think me and you had a discussion about that. That's on video, so we can look back on that and laugh. But I think during COVID, it was the month of April. We were able to sign up 200 new patients using virtual exams. So, you know, I mean, that was a clear, you know, it clearly worked. And, you know, when we say start, I mean, we're talking about collecting down payments. So we were starting patients doing it. They of course would come in the office, we'd take full records and, you know, let them know that things may change once we see them in person. But, you know, certainly it was if anything, you know, at the very least, a awesome lead generator. One of the ways we were able to communicate with these patients was through Rhinogram. I mean, what we found is patients don't want to call us anymore. They don't want to go on hold. They don't want the phone call. They want something super quick, which is texting. So in our in the call center in our office, all of our team members have Rhinogram up. They're all texting. We're getting back to text messages very, very, very quickly. And the other interesting thing is after COVID, after we reopened, we said, hey, why don't we keep virtual consultations open, which we did. And now, you know, even today, we're still getting, you know, a couple, you know, a day. So we're still doing virtual consults. We're of course able to get them into our office, but, you know, it's one of the blessings that we learned during our COVID closure. So, you know, there was you know, something good that came out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned that you have a 72-hour rule. So if I requested an appointment, the free orthodontic exam, and wanted to get in, you know, tomorrow at noon or the following day at noon, if you guys already have a full schedule, how do you accommodate that? Now, are you maybe utilizing Rhinogram for part of that process as well, or how's that work?
So, I mean, we're utilizing Rhinogram a couple of different ways. We are confirming the appointment through Rhinogram. We are sending out our new COVID guidelines, which are constantly updating, which is another pain. But and then, you know, answering any patient questions through Rhinogram. But, you know, no matter if our schedule's full, if we have the appointment available or not, we're going to get you in, or at least give you the offer of coming in within 72 hours. Because that's what we find the best show up rate of the patient is, and also the best chance of conversion.
Yeah, and I want to go over that because on social media specifically, a lot of orthodontists are used to getting patients traditionally from dentists or other referrals, word of mouth, friends, family. When you start running ads on social media, Google, if you're not giving someone an appointment within 48 hours, 72 hours, the no-show rate can really drastically go up. And I'm not sure if you've seen that, Dr. Ben, and that's why you have that rule, but we see that all the time. Some practices may say, hey, I'm booked 4 or 6 weeks out. I can't get people in. And we kind of have to take a step back because on social media, people, we like things now. When the new iPhone comes out, we want to pre-order it and get it now. And so what are your thoughts around that to someone who may be on the fence with being more accommodating? It's vital with social media and ads. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, people more than ever, now want instant gratification, right? And, even if you're not, forget competing with other orthodontists, they're either going to come to you and get braces, or they're going to go to Best Buy today and go buy something from Best Buy. So, the goal is to get them in, while they're excited about it. Otherwise, they're on to the next thing, or they're calling the next person. I mean, we get people who say, hey, we're going to go into, we're going to get our second opinion. We had another appointment scheduled, weeks and weeks out, but we're going to come to you, and then we'll have a second opinion with this other orthodontist. But they're getting started in our office that same day, so that other consultation never happens. And listen, I'm guilty of doing the same thing. When I first started, we would book out 2 to 3 weeks because we only allowed 6 or 7 new patients to come in a day. Now we allow 30 plus new patients to come in a day. Now we don't always fill all those slots, but at least we have the availability. And, I think one of the things that patients want more than anything is convenience. And they want to come in when they want, and they want to come in soon. They don't want to have to wait months for an appointment or weeks, and they want to come in at the time they want to come in. So, it's pretty simple. Just, make it as convenient as possible.
Now, you talked about same day starts as well, and that's been a huge buzzword in the past couple of years. You guys do a number of same day starts. Walk us through your approach on same day starts, and how did you guys begin to implement that and plant the seed early on, maybe even with text messages or callbacks? You're planting the seed, hey, if everything goes well, you could actually get started today. How's that work in your office, and how many new patients are you converting same day?
Yeah, I mean, so same day starts is the norm for us. When we don't even use the word same day starts for us, because that's just how people get started here, unless they need some kind of dental work first, or there's some kind of they're just not ready for treatment. But when we got it started, we made sure in every new patient phone call when they called in, we say, and just to let you know, you may want to save some extra time, because you will have the opportunity to get started with your braces or Invisalign on the day of your consultation. The other thing we'll do is say that through Rhinogram. So we'll send a text message saying, hey, you're going to have the ability to get started with your braces on this consultation. So it's just really become the new norm for us. And at this point, we don't know any other way. The high majority of our starts are the day they're coming in for the consultation appointment.
Wow. Now, you also mentioned a 5-minute rule. How do you incentivize people to follow up within 5 minutes?
Sure. So we have a call center bonus where our call center is getting a bonus for, we call it a 555 bonus. And it's part of that is getting responding to that lead within 5 minutes, making sure that patient shows up to their appointment, and then that patient converting to becoming an active patient at our office. And so we really are actually looking at the time the lead comes in at the time that we respond to them.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I'm going to pull up a Harvard business study, but essentially what the study shows is within 5 minutes, if you don't follow up within 5 minutes from a digital, so we're talking about growing with social media. If you want to grow with social media, you may have to make some changes like this that could be painful, right? With going through them and how are we going to follow up with in 5 minutes? This person's checking people in, or we may have to hire someone to call people back or text them on Rhinogram within 5 minutes. But it will certainly pay off big time, because if you look at the data, and we can pull this study up, within 5 minutes, if you don't follow up, you're decreasing your odds of contacting that person and converting them by 400%. So did you guys look at the data, or who helped you with that process?
Well, I mean, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have. I mean, we also had help from Scott Hansen, who used
Right.
to be with OrthoChats. But I think between you and him, I think that's how we came up with that.
Yeah, so basically what we're looking at here is this Harvard Business Review, and you can see it here. We can maybe make this a resource too later on. It's a great resource, but also even persistence and follow-up. And that's, again, some of the things Rhinogram can help with, and certainly make it much easier to contact the person quickly and also continue to follow up. So Dr. Fishbein, thank you so much for being with us today. And Dr. Dressler, it's been a pleasure as well to speak with both of you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you all for joining us. We have a few minutes left during our time today, so let's take some time and look at some questions that are coming in. Dr. Dressler, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to get to you, Dr. Fishbein. Okay, can Rhinogram be added to our current website for texting ability? How does that work?
Yeah, actually, a website widget comes with the subscription. It's a monthly subscription, and it's just part of the standard package. So any practice that signs up for Rhinogram, they're going to be asked, would you like us to help you add a website widget to your website? And so real simple and easy to do that. Great question, by the way.
We have another great question here. Our voicemail on our office phone says we are out until the following day. Can Rhinogram do that, or do you need to be accessible 24/7?
Rhinogram has its own out of office message that when people text in after hours, you can create whatever personalized message you want. And even though you get that message, or the patient gets the message, literally within seconds, they're going to get what I would call what is called an auto response back. The people in the practice, the doctor's staff after hours, depending on how they want to handle it, can get a notification come across their phone. They can view the message and see, do they want to reply to it or not? So if you want to have somebody responsible for looking at after hours messages, I know I have one person and myself that field that. I prefer looking at them because I like knowing what's being asked. Is it really an emergency right this second that needs attention or not? Most of them not. Most of them are appointment changes and things of that nature. How much do I have left on my bill? That's going to be the vast majority of them. A few are perceived emergencies. And then again, you judge whether you want to reply or not, or reply the next morning when somebody comes in. But the idea being is you've got this, you make it whatever you want to make it and however you want to practice, which is the beautiful part.
Nice. We have a question here about integration. Does Rhinogram integrate with Focus Ortho?
Absolutely, Rhinogram integrates with Focus Ortho, as does all the others that I mentioned that it integrates with. We have very strong integration capabilities, and it truly, what matters the most is the one you're integrating with. Do they allow read and write, or do they allow just read? That sort of thing. Focus Ortho has been great, and I'm pretty positive we're very seamlessly integrated with Focus Ortho.
Thanks, Dr. Dressler. Luke, it looks like we have a few questions that have come in for Dr. Fishbein.
Thanks, Erica. Let's run through some of these questions really quick. Dr. Fishbein, one of the questions, should I hire someone for internal marketing?
Yes.
Yeah, walk us through that role. I know Lori started out and now you have Eliza as well. Tell us a little bit about what they do.
Sure. So, our title for them is so we have one whose sole job is to really get involved in our community. We call her our community outreach director, and her job is to make sure that Fishbein Orthodontics is involved in the community, that our team is involved, and that our doctors are involved too. She's also going around to the dental offices and setting up meetings with the doctors and the general dentists who are referring patients to us. And it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's certainly the return is there. At one point, we had an additional marketing coordinator whose sole job was just to plan events for us, which we do a lot of. And I think there's nothing better that you can do than getting involved in the community.
Awesome. Second question is, where should I start with community outreach?
Sure. So schools are an easy place to start, and then certainly, nonprofit organizations. But basically, once you hire that person, there's so many places in the community that are looking for help. I mean, it's more, even with our large practice and our ability to spend, it's more than we can handle. So there's tons of opportunity, and once you find the right people in the community, there's no shortage of people in the community asking for help, and we do as much as we can.
Yeah, I think I even saw you guys were driving through birthday parties during COVID, since obviously you couldn't be around people. You were just driving past and would at least show presence at people's birthdays. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we had to get creative during COVID for sure. So.
That's awesome. The last question is, should I have a marketing agency run my ads, or should we run them internally?
Yeah, get a marketing agency. That's a no-brainer as well. I for the first year didn't have a marketing agency, and we didn't grow that year. So I learned very, very quickly that obviously it's worth it. It's silly now. I mean, unless you want to be a 100% dental referral practice, or can be, and that's obviously not our model. But certainly I think it's I couldn't imagine having a practice without a digital marketing agency. Excuse me.
Yeah, and some of the things that I've seen, just to speak to that briefly, is when you have someone internally, there's so much to do with referral sources like dentist, outreach, introductions, constantly just staying top of mind with dentist, and then community. You've got schools, events, as well as organic social media, things that actually happen in the office, birthday parties, new patients coming out of treatment. All the photographs you could post organically. There's so much for an internal marketing person to do, and then that person working directly with the marketing agency to have great communication. It really kind of gives you a complete and comprehensive presence in all areas. So that's just something that I've seen. Thank you all for those questions. Erica, I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Luke. It looks like we're out of time for today, but thank you again, everyone. Dr. Dressler, Dr. Fishbein, it's been absolutely wonderful to meet with you today. If you asked a question and we weren't able to get to it, we will be sure to follow up via email or phone call with that question. In the meantime, you're more than welcome to send us an email at hello@Rhinogram, and we can follow up with you there. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.